Before we get into today's chat, quick one. If you're not 100% sure how your HR is really holding up, take our free HR health check. It's short, jargon-free, and gives you a clear score on what's working and what needs a bit of love. And if you do it before 1st April 2026, you'll get a bonus 7-pillar strategy on a page, tailored to help you manage HR brilliantly for the year ahead. Just head to kateunderwoodhr.co.uk/HR-health-check the link in the show notes. Picture this. It's 9:12 a.m. You've just sat down with your tea. You're feeling optimistic, which is always a risky move in a small business. Hazel is doing her morning patrol, which mostly involves walking 2 steps, doing a deep sigh like she's the CEO, and then staring at the door like she's expecting a delivery of snacks. And then someone appears and says very quietly, "Kate, can I have a word privately?" And in that moment, your brain goes blank, your stomach drops, and your tea suddenly tastes like regret. Because "can I have a word" could mean anything from "the printer's on fire" to "I've seen something that doesn't feel right and I don't know who to tell." This is Buzzing About HR, and today we're talking whistleblowing in small businesses. What to do when someone raises a concern, how to handle it properly without panic, and how to make it feel safe to speak up even when you're a tiny team and it feels like everyone knows everything. Hello and welcome back. It's Kate. Right. Before we get into what you do when someone raises a concern, we need to get clear on what whistleblowing actually is, because it gets misunderstood all the time. And in small businesses especially, people often use the word whistleblowing to mean "I'm unhappy," or "I'm complaining," or "I want you to do something about Dave." Sometimes it is that, sometimes it isn't, and the route you take matters. So, let's demystify it. The Hive Brief. Whistleblowing has a very specific meaning in UK law. It's when a worker raises a concern about wrongdoing that they reasonably believe is in the public interest. So it's not just "I don't like my manager." It's not just "I feel hard done by." It's not just "my colleague is annoying." Those things might be grievances. They might still be serious. But whistleblowing is usually about something bigger that could affect other people, customers, the public, or the business's legal obligations. Typical whistleblowing concerns include health and safety risks, criminal activity, fraud or financial wrongdoing, breach of a legal obligation, environmental damage, miscarriage of justice, or covering up any of the above. Here's a really simple way to separate it. A grievance is usually "this is happening to me." Whistleblowing is usually "this is wrong and it could affect others." But, and this is important, employees don't always label it correctly. They might not say "I'm whistleblowing." They might say "I don't think this is safe." "I think we're doing something illegal." "I'm worried customers are being misled." "I've seen someone falsifying records." Something is being covered up. So your job isn't to argue about the label in the moment. Your job is to listen, take it seriously, and work out the right process. And one more thing, whistleblowing isn't about someone being disloyal. It's not stitching someone up. It's someone raising a concern because they think something needs fixing. And if you handle it properly, it can actually protect your business. The sting. Now, let's talk about what to do when someone raises a concern, especially in a small business where everyone knows everyone. And the tea round is basically the employee engagement strategy. Step 1. Stay calm in the moment. Do not react with shock. Do not get defensive. Do not jump to, "Who said that?" And please don't say, "Are you sure?" in that tone that sounds like you've already decided they're lying. A calm opening script is, "Thank you for telling me. I'm glad you've raised it. I'm going to take this seriously and I'll need to ask a few questions so I understand what's happened." Step 2. Get the facts, not just the feelings. Ask, what did you see or hear? When did it happen? Who was involved? Is it ongoing? Is anyone at immediate risk? Is there evidence like emails, messages, photos, records? Have you raised it with anyone else? Then ask this, because it's absolute gold. What outcome are you hoping for? Sometimes they just want it to stop. Sometimes they want it investigated. Sometimes they want reassurance they won't be punished for speaking up. That last one matters more than people realise. Step 3. Don't promise confidentiality you cannot guarantee. In small businesses, complete confidentiality is often impossible because investigations involve people. So say this: "I will treat this sensitively and only share it with people who genuinely need to know so we can look into it properly." Step 4. Protect the person raising it. Retaliation is where businesses get into real trouble, and retaliation isn't always dramatic. It can be subtle. Being frozen out, hours cut, shifts changed as punishment, suddenly being criticised constantly, colleagues turning on them. So set the standard early. Just to be clear, we don't tolerate anyone being treated badly for raising a concern. Step 5. Do not investigate like it's a gossip session. This is where small businesses slip because it feels informal. They ask around casually. They mention it in the office. They tell a manager who then confronts someone in the corridor. That is how you turn a concern into chaos. Instead, you take a structured approach. First, risk check. Is anyone in immediate danger? Is there a serious health and safety issue? Is there safeguarding risk? If yes, you act immediately to make it safe. Second, decide the route. Is this whistleblowing, a grievance, or both? If in doubt, treat it carefully and get advice. Third, assign the right person. If the concern is about the owner or a senior person, it can't be investigated by their best mate. You need independence. Fourth, record it. Make a written note of what was raised, when, and what you're doing next. Audit trail. Audit trail. Audit trail. Fifth, set expectations. Tell the person what happens next and when they'll hear from you. I'm going to look into this. I'll come back to you by Friday with an update on next steps. Legal angel. Quick, straight talking bit. Whistleblowing is high risk if you handle it badly. Not because raising a concern is a threat, but because retaliation, delay, or a sloppy process is what creates serious problems. Your protection is take it seriously, act promptly, keep an audit trail, use a fair investigation approach. Protect the individual from retaliation. Be able to show you acted reasonably. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be proper. Employment Rights Act angle. Now, here's the extra layer that's really important this year. The Employment Rights Act is tightening expectations in a few areas, including harassment and how will employers prevent it. And later on in the year, we're expecting stronger duties around third-party harassment. So, if someone raises a concern like a customer keeps making sexual comments, a client is touching staff, a contractor is sending inappropriate messages, people laugh it off, but I feel uncomfortable. That isn't banter, that's a risk, And this is where I want to be really clear. Regardless of your size, you still need to take reasonable steps to ensure legislation is upheld under the Employment Rights Act. There isn't a "we're only small" pass.
What changes with size is what is reasonable for you.
A tiny business might not have a whole HR team and a fancy reporting platform. Fine.
But you can still put reasonable measures in place. Clear reporting routes. A policy people can understand. A way to record concerns. A consistent response, prompt action, and boundaries with customers and clients when their behaviour crosses the line.
If a third party is behaving inappropriately, your response needs to be immediate and structured. Record the concern. Assess risk. Put control measures in place. Speak to the third party if needed.
Support the employee.
Follow your dignity at work approach. Keep an audit trail. That is what reasonable steps looks like in real life. How do you make it feel safe in a tiny business? Now, let's get into the part that really matters in small businesses. Because if you've got 5 staff, confidential can feel like a fairy tale. Everyone knows everyone. People notice who went into the office. They notice who looks stressed. They notice who's suddenly quiet. And if the owner is the issue, it can feel impossible. Who do you raise it with? When the person you'd normally raise it with is the problem. This is exactly why small businesses need to be intentional about how concerns are raised. You create a route that isn't the owner. You create a process that's predictable. And you create a culture where speaking up doesn't cost people their job. Here are practical ways to do that.
First, you give people a reporting route that isn't the owner. You need at least one alternative, ideally 2.
That could be an external whistleblowing channel. It could be your HR consultant. It could be a solicitor partner. It could be a non-exec or investor contact if you have one. The key is you write it down and you publish it. So it's not ask around, it's clear. Second, you put what happens next in writing. People stay silent because they imagine the worst. So your whistleblowing process should say how to raise a concern. What information helps?
What confidentiality means in a small team. In honest language. What you'll do in the first 48 hours. When they'll get updates.
How you prevent retaliation. And what happens if the owner is involved. This is the bit that builds trust. Because people can see the steps. Third, you make a no retaliation promise and you back it up. Not just, we don't do retaliation. You explain what retaliation looks like. Hours cut, shifts changed,
being iced out,
suddenly being criticised constantly, and you make it clear that retaliation is not tolerated. Fourth, you build psychological safety into normal life. You can't only say raise concerns when something explodes. You include it in regular check-ins. A simple question in a one-to-one can change everything. Is there anything worrying you that you're not sure how to raise? And when someone does raise something, you don't punish them with silence. You thank them, you act and you update. Fifth, you make it possible to report without outing the person.
In a small team, anonymity can be hard, but you can still reduce exposure.
You can let people raise concerns in writing to an external contact.
You can allow someone to raise it on a colleague's behalf with consent.
You can triage it as a process issue first, without naming names, where possible. And sixth, and this is the big one, if the owner is the issue, you need an automatic escalation rule. Write it down so it's not personal. If the concern involves the owner or senior person, it is automatically handled externally and the owner does not control the process. That single safeguard is what makes people believe the system is real. Because otherwise, in a small business, it feels like telling the teacher about the teacher.
And that never goes well.
Small business actions. Here's what you need in place so whistleblowing doesn't send you into a spin. 1. A simple whistleblowing process in plain English. 2. A named contact and a backup contact, including an external option. 3. A consistent response script for managers. Thanks for raising it. I'm going to take it seriously. I'll ask a few questions, record it, and come back to you with next steps by Friday.
4. A basic investigation template. 5. A clear no retaliation standard and enforce it. 6. A clear harassment and sexual harassment prevention approach, especially where staff deal with customers, clients, contractors, or the public.
And here's the simplest operational rule. If it's serious enough to raise, it's serious enough to record. Safe voice. If you're thinking, this is all fine, but I do not want sensitive concerns being raised in a WhatsApp message at 10 p.m, I hear you. This is exactly why we offer Safe Voice. It gives your team a clear, confidential way to raise concerns properly, and it gives you a structured way to handle them with an audit trail and the right boundaries. If you want to add it to your business or read more about how it works, I will pop the link in the show notes.
This week's challenge. Do one thing this week. Write down your whistleblowing process in plain English.
Who can people raise concerns with? How should they raise it? What happens next? What's your commitment on confidentiality and no retaliation? What time frame will you acknowledge and update? And add one line that covers the owner is the issue route. If the concern involves the owner, staff can raise it directly to the independent contact. That one line changes everything. If someone raises a concern in your business, it doesn't mean you failed. It means someone trusted you enough to speak up. Your job is to listen, take it seriously, act reasonably, and keep the process calm and consistent. And regardless of your size, you still need to take reasonable steps to uphold the legislation under the Employment Rights Act. The steps just need to be reasonable for you. Kettle on, standards up. See you next time. That's it for today. But if you fancy a bit of friendly HR advice in your inbox with zero waffle, come and join our newsletter. We send out bite-sized tips, plain English updates, and handy things you'll actually use. No spam, no fluff. You can sign up at kateunderwoodhr.co.uk/newsletter-sign up or just hit the link in the show